Okay, traders, welcome back to the Master Your Trading Mindset movement. And we're in day 17. Today, we're talking all about greed. We're talking about how you can manage greed to ensure you're building consistent profitability. Because believe it or not, it's oftentimes greed that actually takes us away from doing the very thing we know we need to do to build consistent profitability. If you know how to manage this, if you know what's going on a psychological level and what promotes greed in your mind, you can manage that. You can put it under wraps and you can go back to doing what will ultimately help you have consistent profits, what will ultimately help you scale up with funded accounts and be a long-term successful trader. Now, if it's the first time checking into these videos, first and foremost, welcome. The Master Your Trading Mindset movement was created a video a day, every day for December, 30 days. And I'm putting out cutting edge education, tools and insights that traders must know if they want to master their trading mindset. Everybody says trading is 90% mindset, but a lot of traders don't put energy, effort, or time, or any sort of investment into mastering their trading mindset. So I wanted these 30 days to be awareness building. I wanted these 30 days to give you the things you need to do to master your trading mindset. So heading into 2023, you can have the most successful year yet. And like I mentioned, we're talking all about greed. Make sure you check out the few episodes before this where we talk about emotions one-on-one, fear, before you get into greed. And in fact, watch the whole series through. There's going to be a lot of insights and we're building on top of each other, especially for these last few days and heading into tomorrow and the day after that as well. Anyway, extremely excited. Let's dive into it. The first thing we're going to talk about here is the problem we're addressing, the challenge, the problem. Greed is usually the root cause of a lot of the psychological challenges you have as a trader. And greed is oftentimes what kickstarts the boom and bust cycle, and greed is oftentimes what takes you away from consistently executing on your plan. So to be able to manage greed, to be able to understand what's going on a psychological level, will do you a huge benefit in building consistent profitability. Greed is going to kill your ability to make consistent profits. Why? This is such an important thing to understand. Well, first and foremost, if you're greedy in the markets, you're going to be pushed into outcome-based thinking. You're going to go into the markets with the expectation that I'm going to win, I'm not going to lose. And you're seeking after the pleasure of winning. That's what greed is. And you want too much winning. You want too much profit. You want too much pleasure in the market. It's very hedonistic. And what's going to happen is everybody knows that to be consistently profitable into the future, it's a sample space. You're going to win some trades, you're going to lose some trades. And to be consistently profitable into the future, you need to consistently execute on an edge, and you need to be ready and fully embrace the potential of a loss that next particular trade. Because losing is part of the consistent, profitable sample space, right? Losing is part of process-based thinking. But if you're going into the market with this greed mentality, first and foremost, you're going to be going in with outcome-based expectations. You're going to be pushed away from trading your plan because you're going to want to seek after the pleasure of winning. You're going to have a lot of challenges like confirmation bias to only let in things that support your beliefs. You're going to block out things that go counter to it. You're not going to listen to what the market's communicating to you. You're going to have unrealistic expectations going into the market. So if you do take a loss, you're susceptible to being highly emotional and swing from greed to fear, and then being too fearful to act in the market next time it presents opportunities. So oftentimes it's greed that kickstarts that boom and bust cycle, but greed most definitely takes away from sticking to your plan and sticking to your system and ultimately having consistent profitability. So this is a very crucial topic to discuss and have things in place to manage. Consistent profitability equals both winning and losing, like I talked about. To be consistently profitable into the future, you need to both win and lose part of the sample space. But what oftentimes happens is we have greed, we then go in with unrealistic expectation of the outcome and winning, we're pushed into outcome-based thinking. Now we are pulled away from our trading plan because we want to seek after the pleasure of winning. We have unrealistic expectations, we're vulnerable to being emotional. A lot of the challenges that we discuss in this channel come into play. A lot of the common challenges, things like FOMO, you now fear missing out on that opportunity of that greed, of that pleasure you think you're going to get. FOMO kicks in, right? Over trading kicks in because you're now greedy and you want more and more and more, and you're trading more to seek after that pleasure. So a lot of those challenges that are very common with traders come into play if greed isn't managed. We're going to discuss how to do that, okay? But before we do, I want to bring up this Cartesian plan again of your mind, help you understand that positives at the top, negatives at the bottom, future imagination is in front, and past memory is at the back. You've got the mirror, the past is mirrored forward into the future, and you've got these common emotions here. We talked about fear in the last episode, we talked about the fantasy. Now guess what? Fantasy is an interchangeable name for greed. Okay, fear and greed, fear and fantasy. You've also got the infatuation of the past. Before we had the resentment of the past, now we have the infatuation of the past. I want to remind you that if we're conscious of the negative, we're unconscious of the positive. If we're conscious of the positive, we're unconscious of the negative. Both are there, but we're blinded by our bias. Okay, so now we're focusing on the top right quadrant, on greed. Now, greed will be mirrored from past infatuations. So if you have very pleasurable moments in the past of winning and gaining pleasure and gaining the positive and in your mind being rewarded, that's going to mirror forward into a future greed. We're going to want that again. We're going to want that pleasure again. So this is why in the 12-week program, I get traders to go back to both their most painful and pleasurable moments, the most pleasurable trades, and help them see the other side of that, help them see the drawbacks of what they're infatuated with and the risks in that, so we can take it off the pedestal. And now traders aren't trying to seek after that in the markets. They're not trying to seek after that pleasurable outcome. But what they're doing is they're just going back to their system. They're going to their processes. They're going to their trading plan. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now, another thought process that could be going on is we could have so much resentment and so much fear to losing. We could have so much pain associated with losing that what actually happens in our mind when we get into a trade is we're trying to disassociate from that pain of losing, that we're going into a fantasy and this greed complex where we want to compensate for all that pain of the past. So greed can also come from a huge bias and association of pain to losing. This is why it's so important to address both. You need to address the pain of losing. You need to go back to those resentments like we talked about in the previous episode. I teach this in a 12-week program. You need to go back to those moments, and you need to expand your awareness of those moments by asking quality questions in the moment, not making anything up, not trying to justify the pain or justify the loss, but you just have a look at what's always been there but you've been blinded to. So these are two common dynamics that you need to address. You need to find the drawbacks of the infatuation. You need to find the benefits of the fear. You need to learn to ground these imbalanced perceptions, these imbalanced and incomplete awarenesses. And what happens is once you go into the drawbacks of your past infatuations, the pain in the pleasurable wins, now all of a sudden you dampen this greed complex. All of a sudden you're not trying to seek after that like an animal impulsively. You're not trying to capture that, but you're more poised, you're more present, you're more powerful as a trader, you're more patient especially because you're not run by that subconsciously stored baggage. You're making rational decisions in the moment based on what your processes say, based on what your plan says. So crucial, so crucial, and I think traders overlook that. So I want you to keep that in mind when we talk about the solutions, okay? Now there are 4 key tools, 4 key solutions that I encourage you guys to implement to manage greed. The first one is, again, using that Bulletproof Your Mindset tool, link in the description. It's completely free. Make sure you go in there and watch that and use that to manage your expectations and fantasies of the outcome, okay? The greed is promoted whenever we have these fantasies. And if you go into the market and you think about all the things that this position could give you, the funded accounts, the pleasure of being rewarded, and the lifestyle you could be rewarded with, and the praise you're going to get from your trading communities, and the good feeling you're going to get when you post on your social media and people congratulate you. The more we create these stories in our mind of the fantasies on the outcome, the more we promote greed. So if you can pull out the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool and ground those unrealistic expectations in the outcome, those fantasies, all of a sudden you dampen greed, and you dampen and you, in a sense, take off the glasses, the rose-colored glasses that make you see positions and lower risk in your mind and make you see things that aren't even there because we're projecting fantasies into the market. And if we just dampen that and we don't project these unrealistic expectations, you dampen greed in the market, you also dampen FOMO, you dampen over trading. All these challenges that are a subset of greed start to dampen. All of a sudden you go back to your trading plan. You're more patient in the market. You're not trying to rush into things, but you're making more rational decisions. The other thing you want to have is you want to make sure you have a clear process-based trading plan. This is a cornerstone of any emotion any psychological improvement in the market is making sure you have a system that you can go back to. This is why a lot of the pilots, the surgeons, they have protocol that they follow. They're not relying on how they feel in the moment, because they know if they do, they're susceptible to the common emotional volatilities that human beings experience. So they want to have a clear process-based, a step-by-step checklist or protocol that they follow. So they put decision-making in the hands of a proven system that they've already tested. The next thing is you need to go back and address that subconsciously stored baggage. That is really the root cause of a lot of the emotional volatilities we have in the market. The more and more you do the exercise I teach in the 12-week program of going back to the specific moments, very pleasurable wins, and seeing how was that a drawback to me? How was that a risk? How did that stunt my growth? How did that take away from me? And you go back to your most painful losses in the past. You ask, how was that a benefit? How did that serve me? How did that help me grow? And you very specifically in your mind go back to painful and pleasurable moments, and you expand your awareness of them, and you neutralize those experiences, and you see them for what they were. You expand your awareness on them. Now all of a sudden in your subconscious mind, those aren't incomplete pictures anymore. You're not trying to avoid losing, you're not trying to seek after winning, but you just go back to your trading plan. You allow the consistent execution of an edge, which is ultimately what's going to get you consistent profitability in the future. You're not an animal anymore trying to avoid losing, trying to seek winning. Oftentimes, unconsciously, you don't even know why you're doing it, but when you go back and you address the subconsciously stored baggage, you become more patient, you become more poised, and you become more powerful as a trader, and that's ultimately where you want to be. The other thing that is a quick fix, right now you can implement, is have other sources of income, have a balanced lifestyle. If you put so much into the market to have to make it here and now, and it's the only source of income, and you're relying on your trading, and you don't do anything else but trade, then you're more likely to be at the charts, you're more likely to be at the mercy of the markets as well, you're more likely to be greedy and try and seek after pleasurable wins, because you have to, you're desperate from the market. So make sure you have a balanced income sources and a balanced lifestyle, and you implement these psychological principles that I've talked about before, these tools, and I guarantee you the greed complex will go down significantly. You'll be more patient and poised as a trader. You'll be making better decisions. The ideal mindset you want to be embodying, right, and we've talked about this prior, is you want to truly embody process-based thinking. Implementing these solutions will help manage and quiet down the greed, the unrealistic expectations and the outcome, the fantasies that we promote, and will help you be more patient and poised as a trader. You're going to be going into trades with the psychology, with the mindset, which is what I've seen the most successful traders have, of I don't truly care if this is a win or a loss. What I care about is I'm executing on my trading plan. I'm making a process-based decision according to my plan. I know if I do this over 100, over 1,000 trades, I'm going to end up profitable, because that's what my edge states. And when you embody that mindset, that thought process before every trade, you lower the emotional volatilities you experience as a trader, and you start building consistent profitability. That's where you can start scaling up comfortably with more and more capital, because you have a system, you have a process that you can rely on, you can be confident in. So in summary, greed is going to kill your ability to make consistent profits, because it takes you away from your trading plan, it takes you away from your edge. It needs to be managed for thrival. You need to manage greed for thrival. Greed, again, fear and greed are survival responses, right? Our ancestors wanted to get as much as they possibly could because they didn't know the next time they could hunt. But as traders, we need to learn to manage that, dampen that. We need to learn how to go back to our processes and only execute when our trading plan states that we can. You want to manage the fantasies. You want to address the subconsciously stored resentments and infatuations of the past that are driving the greed. And you want to balance your lifestyle and income sources. And you'll dampen the greed. You'll go back to process-based thinking. You'll make more rational decisions. You'll start to build consistent profitability as a result. Now, if you resonate with this lecture, make sure you share it with friends. Get it on your social media. Let's get this movement out here so traders can be focusing on their psychology to ensure that they have the most successful 2023 yet. If you resonate with this, you're going to absolutely love what I teach in the 12-week program, with the tools, with the accountability, with the walkthroughs, to ensure that you actually get the true brain change that you need to start thinking like a professional trader. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Mind-blowing lecture tomorrow, so make sure you're there. We'll speak soon.